Hello, are you ready to talk more on Monday? In our Founder to Founder series, we spend time with female founders in a variety of industries to learn their why, what they're building, and how they're creating spaces for others through their work. Today, we're spending time with Jordan Coleman of A Seat at the Table. My name is Ariana Cruz, and I'm the owner of More. Here we work to make opportunities reachable for everyone by curating content to educate, inspire, and call you to action. Your action might look different compared to your friends, and that's okay. We want to meet you where you are and start a conversation. Together, we are making opportunities reachable for everyone. Before we get into it, let's meet our guest. Jordan is a proud Indianapolis native and a graduate of Warren Central High School. She holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from IUPUI, go Jags, and a master's degree in public administration with a concentration in nonprofit leadership from Indiana Wesleyan University. With a strong background in public affairs and development, Jordan has successfully led initiatives across both for-profit and nonprofit sectors, managing multi-million-dollar budgets, building strategic partnerships, cultivating volunteer engagement, and generating over $1 million annually in fundraising. Her professional journey, however, was marked by barriers to advancement and a persistent fight to be seen and heard, especially as a Black woman in leadership. That fight led her to launch A Seat at the Table in 2018, a transformative organization dedicated to helping women of color heal from trauma, reclaim their power, and challenge systems of oppression. Rather than to wait for permission, Jordan flipped the table she once sat at and built a new one. Since its founding, the organization has grown into a vital community asset with impactful programming in Indiana and North Carolina that has served thousands of women. Jordan's commitment to justice and equity has earned her nominations for Junior Achievement's Indy's Best and Brightest and the Center for Leadership Development's Up and Coming Achievers Award. She's also served on numerous boards and committees, including the March of Dimes, Indiana Children's Bureau, and Black Fathers Rock. Most recently, she completed the prestigious Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women program. Outside of her work, Jordan is a devoted wife and mother who cherishes quality time with her family and enjoys traveling to new places. With that, let's get into it. Hi, Jordan. Thank you so much for hosting me in Draft today. This is fantastic.
Yes, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I mean, thank you. I messaged you about where we were going to do this interview, and you had every option that is like my favorite spaces. I love all the spaces that Indianapolis has been making for entrepreneurs, for organizations to have something that's not the dining room table to collaborate. And I'm always happy to be in community. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So we are coming fresh off of Sisterhood on the Rooftop. Before we get into what you just did, I'd love to go a little bit further and set the tone for what you are building and what you've been able to do and share with people so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So building A Seat at the Table was really just that. The vision was to have a space where women of color truly had a seat at the table. And so there are so many barriers that we face, glass ceilings, microaggressions, discrimination, whatever that looks like. Our goal was to dismantle that and teach women how to really be at the table, have power at the table, and bring others alike to the table. And so that's kind of a theme that we lean into. And then also understanding that mental health is leadership. A lot of people negate the fact that your mental health is the driving force of your leadership. And so we dive deep into that in the work that we do and really give space, safe spaces for women to be seen and heard to overcome those challenges to be at the table.
That's fantastic. And I was just telling you how I was fangirling over one of your pull quotes about how you're creating spaces not only for women and allies to understand what barriers exist, but also creating spaces for them to grow, for them to better understand that mental health, for them to learn how to be better advocates and active participants against period poverty, but then also how to eliminate those barriers that we know exist.
Exactly.
And to hear the way that you have done it and to hear it secondhand from other people, because I know we were connected by a couple friends, it's amazing. And I'm getting like little mini chills right now while I can in this humidity. But it's really cool. And the magazine, we had started a setting the table campaign, encouraging women to save a seat for those who are coming through our internship program. And so I love the way that you have carried that analogy through so many different spaces.
Yeah.
I'd love to get into the mental health piece a little bit.
Mm.
We talk a lot about pouring from an empty cup and overflowing into others, but truly, you talk about mental health and leadership and how those two things are so directly connected.
Yes. I mean, when you think about being a leader, imagine being burnt out. Imagine being tired. Imagining trying to show up for a team when you don't have anything to give. And not only that, working for a system that is already designed to stifle you and keep you in just a low place. And so our vision was, okay, how do we take those aspects and we truly heal women? Because we know if you are healed, you can lead at the table. And so and that healing really allows for you to just leverage differently. You see things through a different lens, because a lot of times your trauma lens tells you something different than what it really is.
That part.
And so when you flip that up and you're like, well, actually, I've healed and I see that differently. I see I need to show up differently. I need to sit up and be tall. I need to use my voice. I tell women all the time, even if your voice shakes, still speak. It's okay. And a lot of women, that trauma, their voice has been taken away. And so seeing them just work through those layers every week and dismantle them. I mean, we see women literally go from support staff into executive leadership roles. It's amazing to know that mental health is truly changing the trajectory of leadership. So, yeah.
I love that you said that. Even if your voice shakes, still speak.
Yes.
Because that doesn't mean you're not going to be heard.
Right.
Like, let them hear you work through it and let them
Yes.
hear what you have to say all the
Yeah.
same. That's fantastic. When you approach those conversations, especially because our internship, we focus primarily on first year students. And so I think confidence, shaky voices, we do a lot of practice and personal professional development because I so fully believe that they are intertwined with one another. As you're saying, mental health, if you feel like you are struggling in one part of your life, it's hard for it to not bleed over into another part of your life. And so figuring out how to show up and stand tall in who you are and what you want. How do those conversations start for you? And we can talk about it from the cohort perspective or maybe with your mentees, but what does that look like when you see that, oh, we need to work on this before we go there?
Exactly. So we'll talk about mentees. I see that so often where that voice is so quiet, it's so meek, but the ideas are so big. And it's like, you have it. We just have to flip that light switch on. And so sitting down talking, what's making you become so meek? Why are you so quiet? Why are you afraid to use your voice? And what you find out is childhood trauma typically is what comes up. A lot of times they just haven't had a safe space to use their voice. And so really taking a moment just to lean into coaching them through that. You know, I tell them all the time, when I was in corporate, my voice shook a lot of times. I would be at the table and I would say things and you could hear it. Like my hands were shaking, my legs were shaking, but I still said what had to be said. And doors just opened for me because I was bold enough to speak on the things everyone was afraid to say. And so just giving them those tools, talking through it. Sometimes I make them get up and I challenge them. I'm like, hey, you're going to say this. Let's hear you say it. Like, talk about it. And once they break that shell, the confidence starts to bloom out. But they just have to feel safe and feel heard. And it happens. So
that's awesome. And it can be so moving to have that first moment or that first person see you and see that background, see where you came from, and then turn around and still say, okay, and you can still do this.
Yes.
I think, do you remember that moment for you, that first time that someone was like, you got it?
Absolutely. Being in corporate, when I first started my career, I was very young, straight out of college, and had fresh eyes. I was just like, I'm going to tackle the world. I'm going to go to law school. I had all these big dreams. And I remember sitting in a conference room and I was like, but I have an idea about something and I want to say it. And I had this woman who I called my work mom, and I would go to her all the time and like tell her different things. And she was like my empowerment coach. She would say, okay, why didn't you say it? And I would say, like, I'm scared. Like, what if people don't agree? Or what if, they push back? And she's like, okay, and they push back, then what happens? And I was like, well, nothing, I guess. And she's like, okay, so next time, don't allow the moment to pass you by. Say what needs to be said. And so being seen by someone empowered me enough to say, okay, I can do it. And then in that meeting, she sat in the boardroom with me and she smiled the whole time. And I spoke, and did they take my advice? No. I said what needed to be said, but I will tell you, I was then seen to have value at the table at that point. So it wasn't about them taking my advice and implementing, but now I was bringing value. So the next meeting, it was, Jordan, what do you think about that? Or what should we do about that? So yeah.
I love that pointed inclusion too after you make a voice for yourself and
Yeah.
people turn to you and ask for that. You're talking a little bit about both that mentee side and the empowerment coach side of it. Are there things that maybe new in their career professionals can look for to identify those people for them?
Yeah. One, I think it's someone that you can connect with, someone that's kind of paying attention, giving words of encouragement, saying certain things, pulling you to the side, right, wrong, or indifferent. Sometimes you need those checks where it's like, hey, did you think about this? Or what about this? All those aspects were important. And in my corporate experience, I had many women like that that pulled me to the side and said, okay, Jordan, this would be a great thing for you to do. Have you thought about this? Leadership development opportunities. So keeping your eye open to that, but above all, being teachable. I think a lot of times us as younger people, we think we know it all. And it's like, I got it all together. I don't need your help. But no, you do. And it's okay. Even as you get older, you do need it. You need the support. And so leaning in and allowing yourself to be open to be taught, I think is very important.
Yeah. I think sometimes we go into situations and we think that we are teachable or we think that we're ready for that. And I've seen it in a few different ways of you go in, you're ready to be taught, you're ready to learn, and then maybe you really look up to the person mentoring you. And so then you don't want to embarrass yourself or you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing because for whatever reason we think we're letting them down.
Yeah.
Do you have advice in that dynamic from both the mentee side and the mentor side? Because I've been on the mentor side where I see it a little bit and I'm like, this is a safe space, reminder.
Exactly.
But also, I get that you have high standards for yourself. So, are
Yeah.
you projecting those high standards on yourself onto me because you
Yeah.
think I'm going to care if you mess up one time?
Right.
What would you say to that?
So, first, from the mentor perspective, are you providing the safe space? You may think that you are, but it may not be translating the way they needed to translate. So I think being very intentional about the space and the dynamic that you create. The other side is the mentee is advocate for yourself. What do you truly need? How do you need to feel in the space? I think we negate feeling sometimes. Like the space needs to feel safe and calm and open. And so, but to your point, understanding you don't have to be perfect. But for me, that comes from me reiterating that over and over again. And so in conversations we have, if they stumble, I'm like, you don't have to be perfect. It's fine. And I even show like clips or moments where I stumble. And I'm like, I stumble all the time. Like I don't get it right, but I just keep going.
Right.
And I said, but that's the thing. You have to just, the pivot is everything, and knowing how to pivot and being comfortable in that. And so I think just creating the safe space, making sure it's clear, but then the mentee articulating the needs that they have to the mentor so that the two work together. If you can't create that, it's hard, in my opinion, because now we have friction in a space that no one's speaking about.
I agree. And I think, especially at the beginning of mentoring relationships, I always say, I can't serve you if I don't know how to serve you.
Yeah.
And so it is a very interesting dynamic. The more that I've lived in that mentoring space, both in volunteer with organizations, and then also coaching others on their mentoring relationships, because it's a tango, it's a dance, it's whatever analogy you want to use, but it's both parties having to facilitate in slightly different ways so that you can create a flow.
Yeah, agreed.
So thinking of spaces and cultivating that sisterhood on the rooftop.
Yes.
Tell us the DL. How was it? How are you feeling? We're about a week out from it.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good. It was, this event just provides so much community. It's beautiful to see all of these women in this space, all dressed up and excited just to celebrate one another. People tell me all the time, there's no other space in the city like it. And I love that. I hear that. And I love that we can create that space. But just having a beautiful rooftop, cocktails, great food, great conversation, but most importantly, to honor women that are doing great things in the community. And so I just think the moment to just see those women and how they feel seen in the moment is amazing. And so, everybody's in talks with what's next year going to look like. And so we're working on that, a full black tie event, very formal. We're very excited about it. It's year 5 for us in this event. So details coming soon. But Our MC was great, DJ was great. It just was a great vibe, great environment, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to provide that for women in the city. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
If we have new listeners, new community members, what what is the theme of the event? What
Yeah.
is the conversation like when you're there?
Yeah, so the theme is really rooted in honoring women that are in the shadows.
Mm.
And so, we talk a lot about those safe spaces and your mental health and leadership. There's so many women that are great in the city, but they're not on your 40 under 40. They're not
Uh-huh.
on all of these big awards. And so pulling them into the light is always my goal.
Uh-huh.
And so giving them a space to shine and show the work that they're doing is the major piece on why we started it. And then the other piece was we wanted to create an environment that was excellent for women. So this space that is beautiful, you walk in and you feel just all the love. And so I think, we just see women walking in, hugging each other. It's the connection is just right out the gate. And so we just really focus our efforts on pushing that. And then everything else falls into place. The cocktails, the other fun things that we all love. But for me, it is the sisterhood aspect of really feeling the connection with one another.
I love that. And I think sisterhood can look so different in different spaces, different chapters of life, even.
Yeah.
I remember I have a younger brother, as we were talking about earlier, and I wanted a sister so bad. But you also find sisters throughout life, and I love chosen family, and I'm so grateful for like my bonus family and all the different ways that they are. And so thinking about sisterhood, girlhood, all the things that are like between passing tampons in the hallway and like hiding a pad up your sleeve, your organization is also focusing not only on leadership and mental health, but also period poverty. And so what has that conversation been like, especially in these bigger rooms where it's still something that might be taboo to talk about?
Yeah. It's interesting. So many people don't realize that it's an issue because it's not hitting everyone's home the same way. But my first conversation was actually with the food pantry here in the city. And they said, Jordan, we don't receive feminine hygiene products, but we have a high demand of people that come in that request them. And I was like, oh, okay. Note to self, like this might be a space. And so my team and I, we started doing research and we started to really learn like, okay, what does this look like? And aside from us providing feminine hygiene products, we go chemical free because we want to dismantle the PCOS in women of color, ovarian cancer, all those different things that affect us from the chemicals that are in the products that we use. We have been really pushing chemical free. And so partnerships started to spring forth. We've been in schools, we do period parties. And so that is like the cool thing that the girls love. We go into the school, it's like an old school after school, like slumber party type of feel. So we're not slumbering, obviously, but we are having the snacks, we are having the conversation, we are playing the games, but we are also educating them about the body. And so, what does the different colors in your cycle look like? Different days, what do you feel? If you have cramps, what can you do? So we play Jeopardy, we have myth versus fact, and we have some hands-on STEM like activities that show them like, okay, we have so many girls that don't know what a tampon is. And so really teaching them like, this is what it is, what it looks like, feels like, all those things. And so they go home with a month's supply of product.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and so that includes panties because a lot of our girls haven't started yet. So it's like a little kit to put in their book bag if they do start. Obviously, they can change those out. We have a partnership with I Support Girls, which is great. And they provide us with extra goodies. So we have fingernail polish sometimes. Sometimes we have face mask. We'll have, the list goes on. The girls get so excited about the extras, but to see them just go and pack their bags and have that ownership, the feedback is always, okay, now I feel okay if I'm going to start my period. I feel confident. And so that is one big thing that we do around our work. And it is really it's growing like leaps and bounds.
I imagine so, because it's so often not talked about, or it's more embarrassment than it is just like a part of life, a part of your cycle. And I think knowledge is power. And when you know what you're looking for, what can't you do?
Right.
How can you not like have that confidence in being prepared? Because I think a lot of confidence also comes from being prepared. And so I love the way that you open it up in a fun way, because it can be fun to talk about. I never thought I'd be in my late 20s talking to my girlfriends over brunch about our cycles and how we're planning our workouts, how we're planning like our meetings and our calendars around it. And
it's a thing.
It's so empowering, and I feel so much stronger. I feel better about it. I don't dread like 1 week out of the whole month as much
Yeah.
as I used to because I know what's coming after.
Exactly. You, like you said, you planned for it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was a big thing for the girls. Like, okay, this isn't weird. This is actually welcome to the sisterhood. That's how we phrase it. And it's like,
Mm.
it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a part of becoming a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, having those tools, I think about it. If I was a young girl and you gave me panties and, wipes and all the things, I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. If I started school, I'm prepared. Like, it's
Right.
fine. And so I think it's just a relief for
Mm-hmm.
them. And a lot of parents, same feedback. They were excited about us coming. The girls were excited. So, yeah, it's a great thing.
That's awesome. I also appreciate how much you're paying attention to the products that you're offering,
Yeah.
especially out the gate, because I
Mm.
think this goes into grocery stores, accessibility and knowledge of what is available.
Yeah,
And depending on your economic status, like you could start in a very different place than if you just had the knowledge of what else is an
absolutely.
option. And I think too, especially as women, and this again extends into maybe clothing, it's never what is wrong with the materials or the tools that I have, it's what's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking about PCOS and
Yep.
all these different things that can adversely affect us depending on what we're using and
Yeah.
putting into our bodies. How did that conversation come up, or how did you make the decision to start there? Because I
Yeah.
also recognize some of those things do cost more money,
Mm-hmm.
and being an organization like prioritizing.
Yeah.
And so, from kind of the leader perspective, how do you prioritize? Okay, so if we start with this more expensive product,
Mm-hmm.
does that change how many we get to serve?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you prioritize
Yeah.
that piece of it?
So, right out the gate, one thing to know about me is I believe in dismantling a system. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in keeping people in a system. And in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, PCOS would be what I would equate to a system.
Mm-hmm.
So, what can I do to take us out of that and provide something different? So, from the beginning, it was always chemical free.
Okay.
I never started with, oh, anything that you give, we'll take. Yes, we appreciate it. Yes, we've had some donations that aren't. But our goal is to really push it and
Mm-hmm.
educate, because we know, again, if you can get to the table at a young age
Mm-hmm.
and be able to lead, and we can get rid of these health barriers and mental health barriers,
Mm-hmm.
we can go a lot further. But if I have to overcome that at 20, 25, or you have cancer, now we have a trauma that I have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with, and I have to help you overcome because you face something that may have been prevented earlier on. So to me, it was automatically out the gate, we're going to go ahead and dismantle the system and we're going to address it. Now, yes, to answer your question, it is not, I'm not going to say less, because I don't feel like we've had to turn anyone away yet,
Okay.
but there is a pushback sometimes of, well, why can't you just accept anything?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that goes back to when you give things to the food pantry, do you just give anything? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think people just want anything? There's
Right.
still a level of integrity that I think people deserve, regardless
Mm-hmm.
of their need. And so for me, it was without a question. That was what we were going to do. I have family, friends that were affected by PCOS or I had an ovarian cancer threat
Mm-hmm.
early in my 20s. And so I understand wholeheartedly what it means to make sure that we remove those chemicals and provide safe products to people.
That's a really good point too, to call out sometimes the community coming and they're like, we want to help, we want to support, but then as soon as you put parameters around it, sometimes there's that pushback of,
Yeah.
well, why won't you accept anything? And when I hear that, because I've worked in the nonprofit, I've worked in leading volunteer groups and things like that, and I always want to phrase it back of, well, why do you want to give? Are you giving
Right.
to get rid of and alleviate things from your own home
Uh-huh.
or make yourself feel better? Or are you wanting to give because you want to support? And
Yes.
when people tell you this is how you can support me
Mm-hmm.
and you let it
Throw it
just
out the window.
go, yeah, that doesn't really serve anyone or support
Yeah.
anyone in the way that they need to.
Yeah, but I think to your point, it's a lack of knowledge also on their
Mm-hmm.
end. So I don't get offended. I take it as an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
educate.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we don't give these products is because of this. And so once you drive that, I will say people soften up. They're
That's
like,
good.
okay, I understand now. Well, I may not be able to give you as much, but I can give you this, and that's still fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have level set, we have an understanding on our why. And
Right.
if you still want to support, we will love your support. But let's not keep these women in a cycle or these girls in a cycle. Let's
Right.
take them out. So
And make it an opportunity to learn. I
yes.
love that. That's fantastic. So, talking about learning, you have a cohort that's coming up. I'd
Mhm.
love for you to share a little bit about your
Yeah.
programming and maybe ways that people can get involved.
Absolutely. So we run 3 to 4 cohorts a year, specifically focused on that mental health and that leadership piece, and
Mm-hmm.
just integrating both of those together. And it's 8 weeks long. every week. So we are nonstop for 8 weeks, but it's great. Women come, they truly enjoy it. They start the first week, they're a little skeptical because they're like, well, what is this getting ready to be? But I will say we do the hard work. We dig really deep. We have licensed therapists, grief coaches that we work with, and they're a part of our team, and they allow the women to really talk about their trauma. So they have an opportunity where you can come here and you can trauma dump. We want you to. It is completely fine. And then once we move out of those weeks, we go into leadership development. And so we have different curriculums set around burnout. I like to call it walk it like you talk it. So knowing like your voice, your power in the room, and making sure they both collide, and how you show up, your presence matters. So just different areas and ways for women to really grow in their leadership skills, but first and foremost to dismantle those mental health problems, those traumas that you might have, so that you can truly lead. And so again, 3 to 4 times a year. It starts in September. We're really excited about that. We have about 14 women that will be starting with us, and then we'll open applications again for the fall, in the fall for the first of the year. So
okay, that's awesome. And for folks who want to engage or support what you're doing, what does that look like?
So a lot of ways. We're always looking for volunteers. We have pack days where we pack the feminine hygiene kits. So we normally put that out on our social media or on our website. We also have opportunities for people to come with a period party. So you can come, you can volunteer, you just have to do a background check, but you can come and show up and just be a part of the day. And a lot of women love to do that. That's one of our biggest highlights. And then just other small ways, some admin things, little things. And then of course, always financial support to keep the mission going and supporting women that are going through the cohort or period poverty initiative. So
that's fantastic. And what is the best way for people to keep up and reach out to make those donations?
Absolutely. Our website, easiest way, has our social media, our PayPal, all the things on there, which is www.asatnd.org. So,
okay, perfect. My last question before we wrap up this founder to founder, how do you inspire yourself?
That's a great question. I think honestly, my tenacity. So there are so many things that are always thrown my way, so many curveballs, so many doors shut. But my ability to continue to go forward, even when it's hard, even when you feel broken, even when you feel like I've had enough. And so I look at myself sometimes and I'm amazed because I'm like, most people would have given up by now. But the fact that I keep showing up and I keep pushing, I know that something greater is on the other side, not just for me, but for the organization. So I think that would be my thing.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing time with me. Thank you for sharing your tenacity with all of the women that you are influencing and impacting and tearing down barriers for and eliminating systems. This has been so fantastic, and I appreciate getting to know you more and the organization.
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you.